Live from RTV6 Sports, it's Monday afternoon, and this is Horseplay.
And welcome, everyone. What is this? Week 11 already. Already? Yes, it is. Horseplay. We're coming to you live as we do each and every Monday at 12:30. Live from Palomino Restaurant. We've got some cappuccinos working here.
Looking good, too.
Glass of water. What happened to yours?
Well, I don't like to put it on the table up here.
Oh, I see.
I got it.
Why is that?
Because it's in the way.
Oh,
you'll spill it.
We got a lot of stuff going on right here.
Anyway, how you doing? Great to have you on board here. Mike Chappell there on the far side. Former Colts quarterback Jim Sorgi enjoying the cappuccino.
I've got a manly glass of water.
You've got a manly glass of water.
No straw.
I thought it was all scotch in there.
We'll call it water. We'll call it water.
My ice cubes are melting.
That's right, really quickly. Anyway, welcome everybody. Week 11 of Horseplay. Great to have you on board. As the Colts did not get it done last night, 42-20 was the final. Just your general impression of what we saw last night. A lot of us are still trying to figure out what exactly we did see last night. You know?
I mean, I think it's pretty simple. The boys in blue just didn't get it done last night. Coming into the game, I had high expectations, and they did some good things, to be honest with you. I mean, Tom Brady, what was he, 9 or very mediocre
very
in the first
pedestrian in the first half.
84 yards,
two picks in the first half, and then the second half, 9 of 11, 175 yards and 2 touchdowns. It was a complete reversal. And then, you knew it had to happen, though, because you don't give Tom Brady that kind of running game.
Right.
And him not make something happen. Sooner or later the play action pass was going to open up because you had to start crowding the line of scrimmage to stop Jonas Gray. And when you did that, you didn't stop him anyway. But for a guy to rush for 199 yards, 4 touchdowns, he only rushed for like 130 yards the entire season coming into last night's game.
Right.
So it was his breakout game. But it was a good game plan coming into it. I thought they trapped our front seven all over the place in the run game. They were blocking down, pulling offensive linemen. Had Gronkowski and the fullback come across the field in motion, and they come back and trap somebody. And it just opened up huge gashes in our front seven. And that's why our safeties had to make all the tackles.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off. Talking about Jonas Gray, the most amazing stat we talked about last night after the game on Sports Extra. Have you heard about this 1921 stat? Jonas Gray became the first running back in the NFL to enter a game with 0 touchdowns and then to score 4 in one game. What's that? Last time it happened, Herb Henderson of the Evansville Crimson Giants, November 27th, 1921. You covered that game.
I heard about it. I was listening to it. Also, he had 4 rushing touchdowns yesterday. The rest of the league had 4 rushing touchdowns.
Yeah, he matched the league total.
So
league total?
Yes, yesterday he had half of the league's total.
Wow.
So
I didn't realize that.
That's like what Jim said, they dominate both sides of the line of scrimmage. And you just can't. And again, the perception, though, is that this defense has been gashed all year on the ground. It hasn't been. That was an aberration last night.
Right.
It was number 9 in the league, and the only team that really had hurt him, I thought, at this time was Houston with Arian Foster.
I agree.
But this is the game. What hurts about this game is this was sort of a statement game. Mm-hmm. We need to be, we meaning the Colts, need to be mentioned with Denver and all these teams.
The upper echelon.
But until you do, all you are is a playoff team. Can you be more? We'll see moving forward, but they've got a lot of work to do moving forward, and we'll talk about it later. I'm guessing Ahmad Bradshaw's out for the season.
Right.
We've both tried to talk to people. I talked to a couple of people, including his agent, and it looks like it's a fracture. This late in the season, I'm guessing that season ending. So where does the running game go that had, was it 14 carries for 4 yards from the running backs last night? Where do you go from there? So Trent Richardson's got to man up and really have a stronger influence now.
You talked to his agent. I actually talked to Ahmad this morning and say, hey, how you doing? It's Dave First from Channel 6. Hey, man, how you doing? I said, well, there's a lot of talk about your ankle. How you doing? Is it okay? Pregnant pause on the other side. Ahmad?
You were like a telemarketer?
That's what I felt like anyway. Exactly. Well, this isn't a good sign, though. Thanks, Ahmad. We'll see you at the complex. All right, buddy. Click. What are you going to do?
And it's too bad because he's really sort of been, I think he's like the heart and soul of that offense. He's just a true warrior from an NFL standpoint, and he brings so much toughness and grit to the offense. And losing him, it'll be more than just his production because I think he brings an attitude, has brought an attitude to that offense that I don't think Trent Richardson does, and we don't know about Boom Herron because we haven't seen enough of him. But they're going to miss Ahmad Bradshaw.
Let's go right to the lead in case you're just joining us. What was the score again? What were some of the vital stats? Here's the lead for you. The Patriots got it done last night, 42-20. As the Patriots, all of a sudden, man, they've won 6 in a row. Katie bar the door. This team might have something with it. Remember, back in week 4, we were ready to bury these guys.
Oh, people said dynasty's over. Trade Tom Brady. Oh, really?
Right.
But that's the knee
Can't
jerk
trust
of the
Belichick
NFL
anymore.
It's the NFL. Yeah, Belichick's horrible. Tom Brady should be, should be fired, let go, retired, sent to the Hall of Fame. Jonas Gray, 38 carries, 199 yards, 4 touchdowns. And Rob Gronkowski, a very modest 4 catches, 71 yards, and a touchdown. He could have done much more damage. I thought,
again,
in that game last night.
to me, his stats were a little inflated because he got the late touchdown when
Right.
the Colts were really trying to tackle the ball and not the player. But I thought they did a decent job on him. But again, when you can't even have a grasp on the running game and when you can't run the ball, you talked about how Brady was going to have that at his disposal second half and turned it around. Luck never had that.
Well, to be honest with you, going into halftime, I felt pretty good. It was 14-10.
14-7 at that point.
We missed a lot of opportunities to score. Gronkowski, 2 catches, 29 yards. We talked about how Brady was doing. He was doing absolutely atrocious at that point for Tom Brady. The only thing keeping him in the ball game was the running game. I mean, it was Jonas Gray. And the fact that we weren't capitalizing on our opportunities. I mean, Ahmad drops a pass. We missed Dante Moncrief down the field that was wide open.
Mm-hmm.
We throw an interception close to the red zone. I mean, can be 21 points right there.
Right.
And then the game's flip-flopped. I mean, it's totally in our favor. And then the second half is a completely different ball game. But when you give them the lead 14-10, they come out after halftime, have the ball, they go down the field and score. Then now you're digging yourself out of a 2-score hole the entire second half.
Right.
And you need to get a stop to the point where you can get the ball back and get back in the game. And we never got that stop. I mean, 4 possessions, 4 touchdowns, and then the kneel downs at the end of the game. It's just not going to get it done.
Let's head to the Skype lines. Michael Grady is standing by at his. Where are you at here? You at the apartment, Michael?
Home right now.
You're at home.
Yes.
Fresh off the radio show. You're heading to Bloomington later on to talk to Mike Davis and his return as head coach at Texas Southern as they take on IU later tonight. But anyway, what was the big buzz on 1070 The Fan this morning?
Basically, just what you guys have talked about, being out tough, being out physical. The couple of plays toward the end of the game from Gronkowski shoving down Sergio Brown into the camera support, and then following that on the next drive with that run where he basically ran through the entire secondary to get into the end zone, pretty much summed up the game. You are out tough by the New England Patriots in the same way, to a certain degree, in the same way that the Colts look at the Jacksonville Jaguars and Tennessee Titans in the AFC South. That's kind of how New England looks at the Colts when it comes to contending at the top of the AFC. They know that to represent the AFC, it's either going to go through New England or it's going to go through Denver. And the Colts want to be in that group. But against those two teams, they're 0-2.
Yep.
So the Colts wanted to send a statement yesterday, and the Patriots made a statement themselves.
Do you remember the quote that Gronkowski had after the game when he talked about Sergio Brown and shoving him, what was it, out of the club? What was that again?
Yeah, he said he was doing a lot of that's why he threw Sergio down. He said, look, he was doing a lot of yapping during the game, so I took him and I threw him out of the club.
And when you win, you can talk like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Dancing on the sidelines and all that junk that he was doing.
Too much. To which my response is, what is it about Rob Gronkowski and clubs in the city of Indianapolis?
He likes to have a good time.
He likes to have a good
time.
At least he kept his shirt on last night.
That's right.
I mean,
That's right.
they de-pants the Colts, so which would you rather have?
They de-pants the Colts, ladies and gentlemen. Mike Chappell. Excellent. Excellent. So where does this team go from here? I mean, thankfully, Grady, they got the Jacksonville Jaguars, and anybody that plays Jacksonville, you're going to feel good about that.
Yeah, we talked about it a little bit last night, though. They could beat the Jacksonville Jaguars by 30, but the question everybody will still be asking is, yeah, that's great, but can you beat New England?
But
That's great, but can you beat Denver? They can beat Washington. They could pound Washington, but folks will still say, yeah, that's nice, but can you beat New England? Can you beat Denver? And so these last 6 games, we're going to see whether or not they can build any kind of momentum to change our opinion. And honestly, it's not just about the fans or the experts or anything like that. That looked like a team that didn't believe that they could beat New England as that game wore on. Can they build up the kind of momentum to where it doesn't matter where they end up playing, they confidently feel that they could play toe-to-toe with the Broncos or the New England Patriots. It's not about just making the playoffs for the Colts, and they need to be careful with Houston if they catch a little bit more momentum at the end of the season. But it's not just about the playoffs. It's about a Super Bowl at this point with this football team. It's not about being happy about 10 wins. It's can you win a Super Bowl? And last night was a measuring stick game, and obviously they weren't good enough.
Yeah, and the problem is now the next time you face Denver or New England will be probably second round in Denver or New England.
Right.
Well,
so you only made it that much worse for yourself.
I want to bring something up. I mean, the fact that Denver lost yesterday to the St. Louis Rams, who are a good football team without a quarterback. They finally got Sean Hill to play well yesterday. But they're sitting at 7-3, and their schedule, I mean, the Kansas City Chiefs beat Seattle yesterday. They got to go to Kansas City. I mean, are we just handing Peyton Manning and the Denver Broncos a 1 or a 2 seed? I mean, they have some work to do in that AFC West division. I mean, I could see Kansas City beating them in Kansas City. I mean, then they're sitting at 4 losses.
They've got injuries to deal with.
They got injuries to deal with. I mean, can they get another loss and be sitting at 5 losses? If we win out, then we're only sitting at 4 losses. I mean, things can happen.
That's a great point. I mean, let's say the Colts win out, Michael. All of a sudden, Denver has some issues. You still might be looking at a top 2 seed for the Colts. You're looking at a first-round bye.
I agree.
Right, but you need 2 teams to have some issues. Denver may be having some issues right now after the loss to St. Louis and some health concerns, but that still leaves New England. You need some stuff to go wrong for the New England Patriots too. So yeah, that would serve up well, depending on what happens and how Denver finishes the season and the Colts. But you still have Bill Belichick and you still have the Patriots to contend with as well. So there's still plenty to fight for. Still a lot of football left to be played. But there was a big opportunity missed yesterday. You win that football game, and then you feel like, okay, we can play with these guys. But to lose the way that they did just kind of puts a sour taste in everything.
Yeah, and I think what you're spot on, Michael. What you're saying is, no matter when you play them again, they're going to think we got you. And this is sort of like back in the Manning years, where you're, until you get over that hump, and you've just made that hump a little bit bigger now. I can see maybe if they play round 2 or in the title game in New England or whatever, maybe it's a different mindset. But until you beat these guys, until Peyton finally beat them, there's still that in the back of your mind that you need to get over the hump by beating the bully on the block.
And not only that, the Patriots beat the Colts doing something that they don't do best. Their best asset is the passing game, and Tom Brady being able to hit Gronk or LaFell, who's improved over the course of the season, or Edelman making plays. That's the New England Patriots, the team that can throw the football over the place, and they beat you with the running game.
Yeah.
A running game, for the second straight time dating back to last year's divisional round of the playoffs. So the Colts have a lot to clean up if they are to meet again down the road.
Yeah.
Thanks, buddy. Have a good trip down to Bloomington. We'll see you tonight at 5 and 6 o'clock on RTV6. Michael Grady on the Sky Flames. Thanks, buddy.
Take care, brother.
Hey, I mean, how about Bill Belichick essentially taking the playbook from the divisional playoff game and just reusing the thing, and just Xing out LeGarrette Blount and putting in Jonas Gray?
Yeah. If it's not broke, don't fix it, right? I mean, if they can't stop it then, let's see if they can't stop it earlier in the game, and if they can't, they can't. And I agree with what Mike said. The running game is what was constant the entire night, okay? We did not stop it the entire night.
He had 77 yards in the first quarter.
Right, but then the emergence of the passing game in the second half, I thought was really what put the nail in the coffin. I think we could have dealt with just a running game the entire night. I think we could have dealt with just Tom Brady the entire night.
Right.
But the emergence of both of them in the second half, because they ran the ball over us in the first half, but like I said, it was 14-10, and we should have had the lead in that first half after what had transpired. It was the emergence of both of those, the running game and the pass game in the second half, that really put us out of reach. I mean, it was over.
That takes us inside the numbers, and you talked about Tom Brady and the tale of 2 halves that Tom had yesterday. The second half, 9 of 11, 173 yards, 2 touchdowns, compared to what he did in the first half, 10 of 19, 84 yards and 2 picks. I mean, his leading receiver in the first half was Mike Adams of the Colts. Third down efficiency, though, I mean, these are numbers that the Colts usually had given up on. It's 5 of 13 in Patriots, 9 of 12 last night. On the flip side, though, Coby Fleener has come on the last couple games, hasn't he? 7 catches, 144 yards last night, so that's 221 total in the last 2 games.
And not just making the catches he should make, I mean, making extraordinary catches.
Oh, the one Luck tried to overthrow it.
Yeah, he really wanted to, it seemed like. And Coby said, no, I'm going to go get this ball. It was amazing.
And he needs to keep it up, because I'm guessing Dwayne Allen's going to miss couple games. It's, depending on the severity of the ankle sprain.
Are they saying high ankle?
You've seen both ways. Pagano said mild ankle. I've seen low. I've seen different degrees. We won't know, but
you're going to get the 2 to 4 weeks.
Right, and you hope it's on the conservative side, but you got to anticipate more Kobe, maybe more Moncrief to more receiver sets, especially with the running game, not knowing where it's at. So they've already asked Luck to do a lot so far. He'll have to do more now because I don't know how you trust the running game, which has been until last night decent, okay,
acceptable, workable.
Now you just don't know, and do you have enough faith that Trent Richardson can carry the load? I don't at this point.
Well, Trent's numbers last night, 7 carries, 0 yards.
He had as many yards as you did. How many did you have last night?
0, but he got paid a hell of a lot more than I did last night.
Your average was better last night than his was.
The thing with our running game last night, I felt like we blocked it pretty well all across the board, except one guy every play. One guy every play was getting beat, whether it was Gosder against Rob Ninkovich, then he made a play in the backfield. Right. Whether it was Jonathan Harrison against Vince Wilfork, Phil Wilfork made the play in the backfield, or we didn't do a good job of getting the edge. We really wanted to get the edge and turn the defender in, and they fought outside, and we had to cut it back. So instead of getting, 8-9 yards on the first down, we'd get two, and because they turned it back into the pile. So it wasn't a bad job by all 11 guys. It just seemed like 1 or 2 guys every run play was making an error, not getting the job done.
Did the bye week have anything to do with this? I mean, people like to knee jerk and they didn't come out of the bye the way they should have, or that's the old cliche. 2 things are going to happen out of a bye week: you're going to get better or you're going to get worse.
The only thing they had won like 8 out of 9 the Colts had coming out of the bye.
Yeah.
So it hadn't hurt them to pass. I don't. That to me, that's a cop out.
I think it was more what the Patriots enforced their will on us. They whatever we couldn't do is because they did not want us to do. It wasn't the fact
didn't
that
allow the Colts to do it. And that's where it sort of skews things. It was such a dominant, imposing of your will on a team from start to finish. And when that happens, a lot of things look bad. And defensively, the only person that really stopped the Patriots last night was Brady.
Yeah.
With the two bad interceptions, and the second interception was incredibly bad.
What was that?
It was awful.
Yeah, play action pass.
It was like a bad alley-oop.
Yeah, Monte Hughes got free through the line of scrimmage and was scot-free against Brady. Brady falling down, just decides to throw it up. And I'll tell you what, if Monte Hughes does not get that pressure, I think Gronkowski has a huge play down the sidelines. But just so happens that pressure came, he ends up throwing a lob pass, and it was way short of Rob, and it just kind of fell in Mike Adams' lap.
Were you surprised at all? I mean, I watched Gronk out there a lot, and he was open for most of the night.
Yes.
But they didn't utilize him
I
at
agree.
all.
He didn't look for him last night, which was surprising. Those under routes that they normally
was
throw
wide open every time.
Wide open. I mean, he'd come from the right side, the read would be to the left, and he'd be running scot-free like 5-7 yards, and he'd go down the field. And it was surprising that they didn't, coming into the game knowing how bad we are covering the tight end. And it wasn't like we were not covering him. I mean, we were just completely not covering him.
Right.
It wasn't like
I know
somebody was in the realm of the vicinity of him. He was uncovered.
7 yards out, he'd turn wide open.
Wide open.
And considering what Julius Thomas has done to Zach Ertz, Heath Miller, you knew that was in the game plan.
Yes.
So I wondered. So that leads to the question: did the Patriots expose something else now?
Well, I went into that game yesterday wanting to see how we were going to handle Rob Gronkowski, and I think we ended up doing a good job on him. 4 catches, 71 yards, and a touchdown. But I couldn't see from the press box what we were doing to make him do that. It wasn't something we were doing.
I think it was Tom Brady.
I agree. It wasn't something we
choosing
were
not to go
away
with.
from him. Yeah, but
So-
I mean, some of the passes he threw to LaFell on big 3rd down conversions, and back shoulder throws, big catches in the second half was the spark they needed.
The funny thing is, I saw you at halftime. We're like, "Oh, Brady, he's awful tonight.
Yeah.
What's going on?" And then somebody tugged on Superman's cape at halftime.
we should have
All of a
knocked
sudden-
down Will.
Yeah,
exactly.
I think his pass rating was 24-8 first half.
In the first half.
It's perfect second half, 158-3. So
ended up with
he's like a good pitcher if you don't get him early. He'll just close the door on you. That's what the case was.
Missed
last
opportunities.
night.
You talked about it earlier.
Yep.
So Monday afternoon quarterback. Let's talk about what Andrew Luck did last night. 23 of 39. The numbers aren't bad at all here. 23 of 39, 303 yards, 2 touchdowns and a pick. 8th consecutive 300-yard game. So he is now one behind the all-time record set by Drew Brees of 9 consecutive 300-yard games. Now has, this is a kind of a bizarre stat I saw last night, 12th consecutive game of 20-plus completions. 14 is the all-time club record. Peyton did that 4 years ago. But anyway, so What do you take away from this?
Well, it
Luck's
looks
not.
good that he's going to break both those records. I mean, now that Ahmad's hurt.
He's going to have over 300 against Jacksonville.
Yeah,
so
you would
think
imagine.
he's at least going to tie the record, right?
Yeah, I mean, really, the Washington defense is a defense that scares me. I mean, they can come out and they can really play well. They can get after the quarterback. So that defense scares me. I do think he'll throw for a ton of yards next week and will beat Jacksonville handedly. I'm worried about that Washington game. I'm glad we're getting them at home, but I do feel like that Washington, they can jump up and play some really good football on defense. And they have playmakers on offense. So I think he gets to 9 consecutive 300-yard games and 13 consecutive 20-plus completions. But that next weekend is the one that worries me.
So let me take it a step further then. So without Ahmad, you've got Trent, you've got Boom. The running games, we can probably predict it's not going to be as robust, as healthy as it's been.
Good word.
I like that. You saved my.
I'm a wordsmith.
Yeah, that's good. But okay, that's not going to help Luck in the passing game.
Right. I mean, if you look at, besides Reggie Wayne being there, we're back to the same offense we had the end of last season.
Yeah.
With the addition of Reggie Wayne. And Reggie, I mean, he's having some great games. Last night he had a really good game. A big play kind of helped his numbers, inflate him a little bit. But he hasn't been a world beater these last few weeks either.
But T.Y. wasn't a world beater last night.
Right. But I do think the addition of Moncrief, Kobe Fleener is stepping up. So I think the players that we do have going forward are playing better than they did last year. And we got a new guy and the guy back from injury. But it's going to be some tough sledding with where the offense comes. I think you're going to run, like you said, sparingly just to keep defenses honest. And I think you're going to go most of your job through the air from now on.
The one thing I took away from last night was the previous 2 Patriots games with Luck. To me, those were on him. He played poorly with 8 turnovers.
Right.
Last night, it wasn't about it. They didn't lose because of Andrew Luck.
Right.
Now, he had some plays he should have made or could have made, but I thought he played winning football, good enough football to win a game if you didn't have leakage elsewhere. But moving forward, he's going to have to carry a heavier load. And to me, that means he really needs to take care of the football. When you've got deficiencies, whether it's a running game or whatever, you can't just start littering an interception here, an interception there. It just magnifies what you're doing. So it's incumbent on him he's going to throw the ball 40, 45 times a game because he's going to have to. And that's why he's had 20 completions a game over whatever that was. Because they're throwing the ball, he's averaging probably 45, 46 throws a game. And he's just got to be careful. He just still, like last night, I thought he tried to force the ball to Reggie. Maybe he didn't need to where the ball was. But he's got to be extra careful, I think, moving forward. Be aggressive and take care of the football.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it already. 3 plays that I felt like really turned that game is Ma dropping that ball, missing Dante, and then the interception. But I like the fact, New England's coaching staff did a great job of in-game adjustments. They didn't bring a whole lot of pressure last year in the playoff game. And Luck was still forced the ball. Yesterday, I feel the first 2 series, they didn't bring pressure. And I felt like they said to themselves, if we don't bring pressure, we're going to have a harder time winning this game because this kid is more on tonight.
Right.
That second drive, we went right down the field. And then from that point on, they started bringing pressure. They started getting there. They brought an extra guy, a 5th guy, a 6th guy, and they started getting there and they started hitting them a little bit. And that's when the tide started to turn there.
You know what the script is going to be, though, and we kind of saw that in the paper last week, is that Luck can't beat the Patriots. It's like Manning all over again.
It's the but like we talked about. I think he was 0 for 6, and then they won 40-21 up there. And then the last half of the Brady Manning series, Manning really dominated, but
it was at least even.
Right. So. But again, until you beat those guys, I remember going back with Dungy when they played New England in the AFC title game in 06. He said there was some. It was important to have New England be the one that you got over the hump against, and until these guys can go and beat New England, whether it's here or there, it's going to be there. It's just got to play in your mind somehow that, again, the last 2 they just didn't beat you, they beat you up.
Yeah.
And I think that's where it's different. If Brady comes out and does a Roethlisberger, it's one thing. But when you give up 244 yards,
it's the run game.
It does something to your. Not your manhood, but how you approach.
But it demoralizes you a bit.
If
you're going to lose, you want to lose by Brady, right? You don't want to lose by Jonas Gray.
Jonas Gray.
Speaking of the AFC Championship game, I'm thinking of Dan Klecko when he.
Dan Klecko.
So fast forward to last night.
Or Jeff Saturday,
who scooped up the fumble to score the touchdown. How about Anthony Costanzo? What was that?
I don't
exactly?
know, but I loved it.
He said it was a fight or two. I'm not into video games, but a fight or two
Okay, right,
So,
yes.
But that's what it
It
was.
looks like a Mortal Kombat guy. You ever played Mortal Kombat when they went and like,
You're a
He's
younger
scared?
generation. I
Yeah,
had
he's
Atari when I grew up, man. 2600, baby.
Nice.
So that's what that was then,
I think so. I mean, I got to ask
Here's
him,
the thing.
but I think so.
He had been sitting on this touchdown celebration for years. Finally, he gets to show it off, right?
Well, it wasn't
So-
years. I bet you they put that play in, and he's like, man, I got to practice my touchdown dance just in case this
He
play
went right
happens.
into it. He went right into
He
it.
did. He knew what he was doing.
He didn't hesitate.
He did not
As soon as he
hesitate.
scored, I'm into it. Take a look at the AFC standings that we've already kind of talked about. And New England right now leading the way. They're up a game on the Peyton Manning-led Denver Broncos. Cincinnati is in there all of a sudden. The Colts. Well, I don't know. How do you think this is going to shake out, boys?
They'll at least be a 3. They're going to win the division and at least be a 3.
Right.
But that's a home game to start with.
But I tell you what,
On the
that
road.
Houston game coming up in a couple of weeks, all of a sudden is looking very interesting.
I want to see how Ryan Mallett does game after game.
Right, that's
That-
true.
That AFC North division, it confuses the heck out of me. Cleveland, I mean,
I was almost buying into Cleveland.
I was
buying into
too.
them.
I was too. And then yesterday they just get throttled by Houston, and it totally turned the
Receiving
tables
touchdowns
on them.
yesterday by Costanzo and J.J. Watt. What is this season coming to?
But
Where were we on that in Vegas?
the Kansas City game against Denver 2 weeks from now, I'm excited to watch that game. I want to see that game. I want to see what happens there, and I want to see what I know. From the top of my mind, I
So
can't
you're
remember.
you're liking the Chiefs
I
here,
do.
aren't you?
I really like the way their defense is playing. They play well. Alex Smith protects the ball. Jamal Charles can take it to the house from anywhere. Niles Davis gets you tough yards.
Right.
I do. I like them, but I don't know who Denver plays next week. I got to look at that. And I saw it, and off the top of my head, I just do not know right now. But going into that game is going to be exciting.
Well, the question is, what's next? We've already addressed that a little bit. The Jacksonville Jaguars come to town this coming Sunday in a 1 o'clock. We're out of the night games now, aren't we? Unless something flexes towards the Sunday night
They
game.
can
but
flex one later on. We thought maybe Cleveland they could flex, but I don't think they will.
It's too late now.
And Dallas has been protected,
Right.
so we could be 1 o'clock.
Wow, we're in bed early now from now on. Anyway, the Jacksonville Jaguars come to town. They are now 1-9 after the bye this week. Take a look at some of their stats. They have the 25th ranked passing attack, led, of course, by Blake Bortles now, who we saw in round 1 of the Colts and Jags a couple of weeks ago. Bortles now close to 2,000 passing yards, 8 touchdowns, still 14 picks. 20th ranked rushing game, led by Denard Robinson. Defense led by Derek Marks, among others. 29 tackles, 5 sacks, 3 pass deflections. Sam Kavaris is the sports director at WJXT TV in Jacksonville, Florida. He's been covering the Jags for years down there. And the station does a great job in Jacksonville. He joins us on the phone lines right now. And I'm sure you probably watched the game last night. What do you make of the Colts, and are they, dare I say, ripe for an upset, the Jacksonville Jaguars, on Sunday afternoon? Sam?
Well, remember that the Jaguars went 4-4 after the bye week last year, and actually won four of 5 games right after the bye. So, this is a team that is still completely different than that. They're going to start, 8 or 9 rookies or first-year players on offense still, led by, as you mentioned, Blake Bortles, who leads the league in interceptions despite the fact that he didn't play the first 3 games of the year. So it just shows you the kind of growing pains that they go through. By the way, if you want to look at the pretenders in the AFC, as you guys were talking about, the Jaguars throttled Cleveland here. Cleveland was never in that game, and they should have beaten Cincinnati there. So I don't think either one of those teams are for real. But clearly the Colts outclassed them here, and it was the 30-0 first half that precipitated. I personally think Shad Khan, the owner, letting Gus Bradley and Dave Caldwell know that it was time to put Blake Bortles in the game.
They've pretty much decided that they're going to ride Blake Bortles and let him, I guess, deal with the growing pains.
Sink or swim, I guess.
Right, because, it's either let him watch or let him work through it. They've decided that the best way to advance the quarterback is to play him, I suppose.
Yeah, you can't unsee something like that, which means you can't undo that.
Yeah.
Once you put your rookie first round, 3rd overall pick in the game, he can't come out. You got to live with both the good and the bad. And I think the guy has tremendous upside. He is not as polished as Andrew Luck was, obviously coming out of college, but he has the size. He's 6'5". The way I liken it, he's that 2-year-old that you're breeding to run in the Kentucky Derby as a 3-year-old. And you hope that he looks at all of those things that have happened. He's made a couple of the same mistakes, but he has learn from some of the problems that he's had. And it's pretty obvious that when he was in college playing at UCF, he was able to do things from an athletic standpoint that he's not able to do at this level. And what he does often is he looks at his first receiver, then he checks to his second receiver, and then rather than throwing the ball out of bounds or running or then going to his third check down, he goes back to his first guy a lot. When you do that, the other team has converged on that, and that leads to an interception. The interceptions and the turnovers have come at really bad times. I mean, the Jaguars are up 7-3 on Dallas in London and kind of had the game a little bit under control. They muff a punt on the 5-yard line. They fumble the ball going in for a touchdown, and they throw an interception in a drive that would have made it a 7-point game. Those are the things that happen in the league that change the game to being competitive within the last 2 minutes, or it being that double-digit blowout that ends up being the Jaguars' score mostly this year.
Sam, Jim Sorgi here. I got a question. I want to just, in your opinion, are the Jaguars a better football team? How much better of a football team are they now than when we played them in Week 3? Or are they just kind of riding it out here, top 3 pick? How much better are they now than when we played them in Week 3?
I think they're better because Bortles is in the game and the offense has learned a few things. But, just like every team in the league, they've suffered some pretty serious injuries. They'll be without Allen Robinson for the rest of the year. Paul Posluszny, of course, is gone for the year. They cut Dakota Watson. They've got some guys gimpy on defense. But I think they're a better football team. But whether they have the right to earn victories is still the question. 2 years ago, this was such a bad roster after Jack Del Rio was fired that they had about 2 wins in them, and that's what they got. And last year, they had about 4 wins in them. I really thought this team was a 6 or 7 win team this year, but with the turnovers and the willingness to play so many young guys on offense, historically, by the way, they haven't earned that at all. So I think they're a better football team overall, but not quantifiably better than what you saw in Week 3 against the Colts.
You go for the Colts fans here. You go back to 1998 when Peyton Manning played as a rookie, and that was a decision that Bill Polian made, Jim Moore made as well. And to me, that's what hooked me on if you got a young quarterback who's going to be the future of the franchise, let him play.
See, I'm iffy on that because
really?
you look at Aaron Rodgers. I mean, he sat for a long time, and when he came in, he plays lights out.
Right.
He learned how to play the position. And then you see a lot of young guys that get thrown in the fire at such a young age, and they are really talented football players, but because they get thrown in the fire, like David Carr, for instance, in Houston, he got hit a lot when he was young, got those happy feet, not the same guy, never really developed into the same guy. It can work both ways. Obviously, a la Peyton Manning, a la Aaron Rodgers, 2 different ways there, but it cannot work both ways, too.
So it depends on who the guy is.
But I also think that has the personality of the player. I mean, we had Blaine Gabbert here. When you went to practice and watched Blaine Gabbert, you said to yourself, how the heck did we ever lose? I mean, the ball sings out of his hand. He's tall. He's fast. He has command of the huddle. And he walks the 100 yards from the practice field to the stadium, and he can't get out of his own way. Bortles is a completely different kind of guy. And he's more of a Peyton Manning mentality than either a Carr or a Gabbert. But you're right. It can work both ways. But this franchise has got to show some hope. And when Henny was in the game, there were so many other holes around him that the Jaguars were trying to fill that he couldn't even display his own talent, which, as we know, is probably middling at best.
So what you're saying right now is Blake Bortles is not letting the team's shortcomings, their losses, the poor play affect him mentally. He knows it's a learning process, that he'll keep getting better and be better for it as time goes by.
That's right. And remember, as you mentioned, Peyton threw 28 interceptions in his rookie year, but he also threw, I think, 26 touchdowns. And that shows you the kind of resiliency that he had and the kind of mindset that he has. I'm not saying that Bortles is ever going to be Manning, but that and Troy Aikman's rookie year in 1989 when the Cowboys went 1-15, I think are pretty good indications. One guy's in the Hall of Fame, one guy's going to go to the Hall of Fame. Bortles has more of that kind of personality than that fragile quarterback. He played a lot of games in college as opposed to a guy like Gabbert who only played 21 games in college. We're talking about a guy who loves to play the game, wants to play football, and I think he's got a tremendous upside. He's got a, literally they're starting 6 first-year guys or rookies on the offensive line. You're going to have some growing pains there. They do get Mercedes Lewis back this week, I will say that.
One last thing, and I'll never forget when Bortles came in the second half in Week 3. I mean, it was like a standing ovation in the crowd there in Jacksonville.
They're excited.
But Sam, and thanks for your time once again. Sam Kavaris, sports director at WJXT in Jacksonville, joining us. Give us the temperature right now of the Jaguars as a franchise. Every year they're going to London to play games. They renovated the stadium a little bit. We've got swimming pools now up in the stands. What's the atmosphere like in the Jacksonville area when it comes to supporting the Jaguars?
Well, there's a lot of support for the Jaguars. When the NFL put a franchise here, they knew that we would have the population growth, and Jacksonville went from, in 1995, a city of about 500,000 to a city of 1.4 million.
Wow.
What we don't have is the corporate growth, and that's because of a lack of city and civic leadership here. But Shad Khan is trying to move that along, that's for sure. The support for the team is good. The revenue stream here is good. There's a lot of talk about teams to move in L.A., but you never hear about Jacksonville as one of those any longer. Mm-hmm. So I think there's a lot of support for that. But people here know football. I mean, it's a football town. It
Absolutely.
always has been a football, whether it's supporting Florida or Georgia or Florida State or Miami. And they know bad football when they see it. And now I think they were willing to kind of sit back for a while last year and the first part of this year to see what Gus Bradley and Dave Caldwell were going to do. I think now, the preparation and the execution is done. I think people want to see results.
So there's no one out there still beating the drum for Tim Tebow to join the Jaguars, right?
If so, it would be as the GM, I guess.
Great. Hey, Sam, thanks a lot.
Isn't he going to end up? He's going to end up as the head coach of Florida, isn't he?
Yeah, well, yeah. Is that the latest buzz down there? Heck yeah. Hey, if it sells tickets, do it, right?
You name a coach who's ever scored a touchdown, he's on Florida's list.
Great point. Hey, Sam, thanks so much for joining us. Let us know if we can help you out this week as we get set for this rematch between the Colts and the Jaguars on Sunday.
Great. I'm coming. I can't get a reservation at Sam Elmo's, but I'm sure I'll eat it.
What? All right.
Whatever.
Yeah,
so.
Email me. We'll take care of that. We'll take care of that. Thanks, Sam. Just wrap things up here. Just your general thoughts on this rematch where this team, this is going to be an important week when you look at Ahmad Bradshaw, Dwayne Allen, now what?
I think you're going to see, whether it's good or bad, you're going to see an angry defense. We're going to hear it all week. That wasn't us. We're going to show you.
What do you mean if it's good or bad? An angry defense, can it be bad?
I think to be overly aggressive or whatever. I think this is, again, they're going to come out and they're going to do a Cincinnati. Yeah. They're going to shut them down. I think they're going to say, see, this is who we are. But like we've talked about all day, until you do it against the big boys, it's one thing it's the one thing to dominate an AFC South that's in a down cycle. And again, like we talked, there's nothing they can do for the next month or 6 weeks to really put away the stain. Mm-hmm. But I think the defense is going to have a chip on its shoulder. They're going to be kind of angry this week, and we'll see if that manifests on the field. I think it will.
I agree with you. I don't think there's anything we can do the next 6 weeks because I don't think we play an opponent that'll really take the taste out of our mouth.
Even Houston.
No, definitely not. But I do think this will be a good game. I don't think we'll have a problem winning this game. I think he's right about our defense. I think good and bad. Good, the aggressiveness will make the plays. Bad, you don't want penalties and things like that. Mm-hmm. You want to be overly aggressive. You give up big plays. Mm-hmm. We didn't talk with Sam about Denard Robinson. We had playing very well. I think he's averaging almost 5 yards a carry, 500 yards, 4 touchdowns. So he's playing well. That gives Blake Bortles a little bit of a run game. And Blake Bortles, I think he's right. I think he's got the mentality gunslinger right now. I'm going to go out there, make my mistakes, but I'm going to make my plays too.
Let it hang out there. Why not? What do you have to lose when you're 1-9?
He did score 17 points in the second half against us when we were down there. Obviously, the will was a little gone when you're up by so much. Right. But I think we'll get back on track. We'll win this ball game. We'll be sitting at 7-4, and then we'll talk about Washington and where we go from there.
Well, right now there are the haves and have-nots in the AFC. The Colts, sadly, are the have-nots. Can they regroup in these next couple of weeks, head to the playoffs, get back to that have category? We shall see.
Yes.
So, anyway, great job today.
Thank you.
Lunch is on me, okay?
Awesome.
Yeah, right.
Well, it's on the company. I got a company credit there. Mike Chappell, Jim Sorgi, Michael Grady standing by on the Skype lines as well. Sam Kavaris, sports director at WJXT in Jacksonville. Thanks for watching. We're back here next Monday for Week 12 of Horseplay live from Palomino. Come on out and check us out 12:30 each and every Monday. Have a great week, everybody. We'll see you tonight at 5 and 6 on RTV6.